So we want to thank everybody for coming. My name is Abby Hutter. I'm with JSfirm.com, and that's a video that I love to play. And even though it's a little chilly, I still get chills when I see that video because it's all parts of aviation that are just exciting. Most of the kid footage are my children, so they've gotten to experience that stuff. And what we're going to do today here is I'm going to talk a little bit about JSfirm.com and what we do as an aviation website. And then we have California Aeronautical University here with Matt Johnston. And if you want to interview, or both of their, I don't remember their last names. If you want to introduce them, what we're going to do is just have an open conversation of, the early starts of aviation, all the different opportunities and the need that's in the industry now. And I'm going to talk a little bit about our site. And then Matt and these guys are going to talk about their school and where they are today and how they got there. And at any point, if you guys have questions, we can answer those, and we can also talk about it at the end as well. Yeah. So I guess you want to introduce everybody now?
Why don't we have them introduce themselves, because they come to us, they're graduates of ours, of California Aeronautical University, and we'll, before we get into talking too much about our university, we'll talk about some of the follow-ups to, how to follow a career path, and, maybe the university is one choice, or there's other choices out there as well. You want to introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Aaron Hepps. Like Matt said, we are both graduates of California Aeronautical University. We both completed our bachelor's and our master's degree at CAU, and then went on to the airlines after our bachelor's, did our master's while we were at the airlines. She'll talk a little bit more about herself, but I'm with Envoy Air at the regional airlines and American Airlines wholly owned. And yeah, Elza.
Hi, my name is Elza Nikita. I am a first officer at Air Wisconsin, and that's pretty much all I have to say about myself for right now.
That's good. We'll hear from you a little bit later. Yeah. Matt Johnston, I'm the president of California Aeronautical University. So.
All right, so as I said, we're going to start with JSfirm.com first. My name is Abby Hutter. I'm the executive director. And to start, there we go. So we're going to talk about different career paths in aviation, because although pilots are maybe the coolest, there are still lots of opportunities in the industry, and we try to emphasize that you don't have to be a pilot to be in the industry. And I think sometimes that is what kids think. They're either a pilot or mechanic. So to start, after COVID, these numbers have been updated last September, I believe, so near the end of COVID. These numbers were huge. The outlook was dreary before COVID, and now these are the new updated numbers according to Boeing. So this takes us to the year 2039, and that we're going to need, for pilot and technician outlook, they're projecting 763,000 aviation pilots. And that goes with 739,000 maintenance technicians, and then you have 903,000 cabin crew, and this will be over the next 19 years. So a lot of times we get asked, what can we do as an industry? There's this huge shortage that's here now, and it's not going away anytime soon. So I'm going to talk very briefly about, you guys are going to know AOPA, EAA, Sun and Fun. We're going to touch briefly on what those organizations are doing. So I'm sure you know AOPA, they have a whole high school career program, and we have the numbers here. These were updated earlier this year. We got directly from AOPA. So by the numbers, they have over 500 classrooms across the country, 200 schools participating, 20% female, 44% minority, and they have over 8,000 students. And this is great, because we were talking before we came on stage that these guys didn't have aviation in their family, and we'll talk a little bit more later about how they found where they are now and how they got to Cal is from Googling. Kids shouldn't have to Google how to get into aviation. It's something that should be built into high school curriculum, and that's what AOPA is working on. I have a brief video here also for AOPA.
For decades, the pilot population has been in decline. Stopping and reversing that trend is going to take much more than a Band-Aid approach. It's going to take something much bigger, and AOPA is rising to the challenge.
Just a few years ago, we began building a program called You Can Fly. A team of experts was put together to make sure that we can secure the future of general aviation.
Here at You Can Fly, our sole mission is to get people flying and keep them flying. Our newly opened You Can Fly Academy, also home to AOPA's Air Safety Institute, is serving that mission by providing a source and destination for programs that are already making a meaningful difference. Each of our 4 initiatives is designed to reach pilots at a critical point in their journey. For some young people, a career in aviation seems like an impossible dream. Our high school initiative is changing that by building and delivering a rigorous 4-year aviation STEM curriculum available free to schools nationwide. Here at the Academy, we're providing professional development training for the educators who will teach the next generation of pilots, aerospace engineers, and aviation enthusiasts. Of the thousands of people who start flight training each year, most will drop out without earning a pilot certificate. Our flight training initiative is using research and state-of-the-art technology to change that by helping flight schools create the kind of training experiences that keep students flying. At the You Can Fly Academy, CFIs and flight school managers can learn how to deliver exceptional customer experiences that make learning to fly rewarding, fun, and achievable. Once they have a certificate, pilots need affordable, enjoyable ways to keep flying. Flying clubs create communities of pilots and deliver economical access to aircraft. Our Flying Clubs initiative is helping launch new clubs across the country. Here at the Academy, we're hosting seminars that give pilots the tools they need to start a club, find an aircraft, and even recruit members. When pilots do stop flying for a while, it can be intimidating to get back to the airport. Our Rusty Pilots initiative is making it easy, providing refresher seminars and connecting participants with nearby flight schools so they can get back in the air. Each year, we're delivering Rusty Pilot seminars to thousands of pilots here at the You Can Fly Academy and at airports nationwide.
The You Can Fly program is tackling the greatest challenge facing aviation, rebuilding the pilot population. Our initiatives are already making a difference, but this is a long-term commitment, and we need your support.
Please don't let general aviation fade away. Support the AOPA Foundation and the You Can Fly program.
Okay, so as you can see, AOPA is really starting at the beginning and then also, getting people into aviation and then also helping people get back in if they stray away from a little bit. EAA, we're all familiar with Young Eagles. Does anyone have a guess on how many young Eagles have gone on their discovery flight through EAA? Any guess? 50, 100, a million? Since they started in 1992, 25 years.
Well, I've flown a bunch of them, so I'm in that number somewhere.
Yeah, so the total number is 151,000 young Eagles have gone for a flight through EAA's program. And Matt's participation as well, that's awesome. And then Sun and Fun. Has anyone had the chance to attend Sun and Fun in Lakeland, Florida? We attend every year as a company, and we go down, and Sun and Fun is great. They really focus on the youth, and when I say youth, I mean 9th grade to 12th grade. They're graduating kids. Actually, kids there are students. They're getting their pilot's license or their A&P certificate before they even have their driver's license. And it's something they don't have to pay for. It's all funded, and just this week, they actually have a ribbon cutting ceremony on Wednesday for their STEM Skylab, and it's amazing. It's gonna be really exciting to see what those guys do down there. So as I said, at their high school, they have programs for engineers, pilots, and mechanics, and we also do scholarships through there, and it's just, it's a really great organization to be a part of. These numbers are actually over the last 6 years now, and I don't think I updated these, but you can see they've had 96 teenage private pilots certified. So even before they graduate high school, they're flying. Over 20 A&P mechanics, and then over $2 million in continuing education scholarships have been awarded over the last 5 to 6 years. And then this is where JSfirm comes in. This is just a short video. Oops. So very briefly on our website, If anyone that hasn't heard of JSfirm.com, we are partnered with AOPA and CAU, and very basic, we're just like Indeed, but for aviation. So we have over 21 different categories of aviation jobs on our website, everything from drone pilots, mechanics, executives, sales, mechanics as well. It's completely free for job seekers to search and apply to jobs. And I have to update that slide too, because we're nearing 20,000 aviation jobs on our website right now. And the really cool part is all of those jobs are also on AOPA's website. And I'll let you know who some of our other partners are as well. Leading into our job distribution network, and that's what we feel we can do as a company to help aviation, is share those jobs that are on our website. So instead of the industry relying on people to come to JSfirm.com to advertise for jobs, we share the jobs across the industry with associations like AOPA and schools like CAU. And here it's going to show you some of our partners. And you guys, oops. Okay, so we partner with schools, magazines, all the big associations that you guys know. And again, our effort here, we don't charge any of these associations or school. We share those opportunities so that schools, it's great. Schools love it. So like PIA in Pittsburgh, they love showing the parents that the potential students coming in, look, if your son or daughter comes in and they get their A&P certificate, look at all of these jobs that they're going to have available, you know, a few months after they're done. So again, here you can see our partners. And then these are just a couple pictures. As I mentioned on our site, it's not just pilots and mechanics. We have everything from paint and sheet metal and anything that touches an aircraft. You can find that type of job on our website. Let's see if this goes a little bit quicker. Does anyone have any questions yet? It's pretty basic. We do have, actually I'll touch on why these pictures are going through. So EAA, they've been having a week-long career fair. There's a couple companies that are participating, like I know Airbus is, and they're not in the Career and Education Center. But anyone, even if you currently have a job and you're completely happy, it's always great to go around and networking, and I think these guys will tell you how important networking is. To go around and talk to companies and see what sort of opportunities they have, and whether you're looking for a new job or you don't have a job right now. There's over 35 companies participating this week, and they're flagged on the app. If you download the EA app, they have like a special marker by their name, so you'll know the companies that are actively hiring, and they want to talk to you about different opportunities.
Well, I think it's important too, you noted, and you've talked to me in the past, you know, and you said earlier that it's all pilots, but what your website highlights too is that it's so much greater than pilots, right? So, I mean, even the people that are working the show that aren't pilots, right? These are infrastructure support that all these aviation companies need, and to be in aviation is just simply cool, whether you're a pilot or not. So
it's a really great industry, and we actually brought 2 interns with us this week who they'll be seniors in high school this year. And again, you think pilots and mechanics, and everyone here, I mean, I work for an aviation company, but I'm not a pilot. I kind of wish I was.
Are you a mechanic?
I mean, I could probably do some work. I don't know if you'd sign off on it or not, but it's just a great industry to see. And even if you work in the industry and you're the one that comes and sets up the tents or sets up all the sound systems for a company, those types of jobs are on our website too. So Matt, I want to turn it over to you now.
Awesome.
And we're going to talk about CAU, and we're going to get to meet these guys and kind of hear about their path and how they got to where they are and how they went through CAU. And
cool.
We'll continue.
Yeah, I want to, before we get into that, I want to just kind of, you know, piggyback on top of what JSfirm does and what Abby talked about a little bit in terms of, you know, the industry and how do you get information about it. And, you know, if you want to get into aviation and everyone, you know, starts wanting to be a pilot and all these fun things, where do you go? You know, you type in aviation or flight school or aviation mechanic online, and you just get bombarded with all types of information. So I guess I got to grab this thing, huh? And there's advice for, you know, everyone's got advice. There's all kinds of voices out there that you can hear. So hopefully this will play.
Right behind that, Lufthansa 747. Once he exits the alleyway there, we'll be able to make a right turn and head into the gate area. Thank you for remaining seated until I will turn off the seatbelt sign once we park at the gate. Until that time, please remain seated. Again, welcome to New York. It's a beautiful evening here, about 70 degrees right now.
Let the abuse start. Come on, you can't let him get away with that.
Nice breeze. Hey, welcome to New York.
Welcome to New York. Thank you.
Be here.
What was the temperature again?
Where's our gate?
So what I'm illustrating there is that, he was on the wrong frequency, and he was given good information to the wrong people, and so they gave him a hard time. And I think when we talk about many voices in aviation, everyone's got a friend, everyone's got advice, and you really need to look at what's important for you and the things that align to what your goals are. So, if somebody trained 30 years ago, that's different than today. Technology's changed, resources have changed, pricing has changed. So you really need to take a look and do your research, not just listen to the person who got training 30 years ago. It's good advice, but it needs to be measured with good research and good homework too. So there's a lot also of jargon that's out there. You'll start talking to somebody, and again, when you search online, you're just going to get overwhelmed with all of these, ATP, reduction of hours, certificates and ratings, CFI, private, instrument. What order do these go in? Who knows? I didn't know I needed to do multiple things. I thought once I became a pilot, I was a pilot. So there's just a lot of acronyms, and in the aviation world, we like to throw acronyms out and around, and don't be afraid to ask, especially if you're getting into aviation. Don't be afraid to ask, because we get rolling on things, and when you're at a flight school or whatever your choice is in your pathway, please ask questions, because there's a lot of information, and we want to make sure that you understand it all. And there's a lot of resources that need to be leveraged in your pathway, whether that's for a pilot, a mechanic, or even pursuing something that's just in a support fashion. Like Abby said, there's a lot of memberships and affiliations out there. Unfortunately, we're probably not all working together as much as we could be. One of the reasons that California Aeronautical University supports AOPA is we feel that AOPA does a really good job of bringing all these associations and all these voices together. Leadership at AOPA does a good job in trying to bring some of these things together. So you see some AOPA, NBAA, EAA, some of what Abby mentioned. All of them have programs. All of them have different things to get you information. Go look at all of them, right? Go look at what they all have to say, because you're going to find a lot of similarities, but you might find a little different approach to how they get you from point A to point B. We belong to the Regional Airline Association and also the University Aviation Association, so all colleges and universities that offer programs. So it allows us to get together with our colleagues and talk about, what are they doing in their programs, what are we doing in our programs. And of course, the Regional Airline Association is all of the feeder lines that our students and our graduates are going to move into. So we want to stay in tune to what they're doing and what they're looking for. These are some of the questions you should be asking. I'm not going to go through all of them, but what certificates and ratings are included? What's the average time? How is your flight training scheduled? I always recommend to people that if you're pursuing a flight training aspect, and we're going to focus on that probably a little bit more, that you want to fly at least 2-3 times a week, right? You don't want to just drag this out for a long period of time. What are your first-time pass rates, right? Are you actually training successfully, getting people to pass the exams? Is your flight training in-house or contracted, right? Do you have control of your fleet, or is somebody else doing the training for you? In organizations, mission is important, right? So you want to have aligned missions, and you want to make sure that you understand those differences. The cost is the big deal, right? Not all things are created equal. Are supplies and equipment included? Are you just getting quoted FAA minimums, or what's the performance reality? FAA minimums 35 hours. How's that? You know anybody that's gotten it done in 35 hours? Oh, Elson, you were the exception.
Yeah, we were right there.
So you hear all kinds of things. So that's important. That has a big cost impact. What's the average cost? You want to find out. This is new to me, but because there's a lot of academies and different things out there, I just learned that some places actually pay commission to the people who talk to you about getting flight training. So if you enroll at their school, they get paid a commission for you to enroll. That was new to me, but that tells me how aggressive some of these flight training institutions are getting, and that when they're paying commission for their recruiting efforts, that tells you that they're, and a lot of them lost a lot of Chinese contracts, things like that. So you just gotta be on your toes and be aware. What funding options are available? Can I earn a degree? What are the career paths available after I complete? If they're partnered with JSfirm or they're kind of engaged with other partners, that's a good sign. Like you talked about Pittsburgh and things like that.
Yeah.
So you want to make sure that they're looking out for you not only while you're with them, but what are they doing after? How are their relationships with the airlines and things like that? Here's the different certificates and ratings. If you're new in aviation, you don't necessarily understand how many layers there are to it. You think that, once, it's a one-time exam. Well, there's a lot of exams and there's a lot of steps that you need to take. So you can see some of our entry for a single engine, private, the others, multi-engine, instructor, complex, high performance, tail wheel. There's all kinds of things you can do. It's one of the things I love about aviation is because you can never be done, right? I just talked to somebody the other day and they're like, well, I went and got helicopter, right? There's always something to pursue. I said this earlier, educate yourself before choosing. Do your own research. Do your own research. Recognize that everyone has an opinion. I have an opinion. If you ask me certain things, you tell me a little thing, I'm going to give you my opinion. It's just an opinion. It might not work for you. There's many pathways to choose from. Know that that's okay. All the pathways, just make sure you've done the homework that they can get you to where you want to be. Different learning environments. There's very large environments. There's small environments. Really study all of that. If you're looking at a college or university program, do you want to, have all the benefits of football teams and all that, or do you want to just, get in and get out as fast as you can? There's something out there for everybody. Like I said, to start off, it's not the same as it was 20 years ago. Things have changed dramatically in the training. So there are glass panels, and when I first got into this, people were like, the glass, you got to learn on the round dials. You're not going to be a good pilot. Well, I don't think that's true. And the fleets are evidencing that. I mean, you guys don't fly round dials, do you? So, informed navigation. So I just wanted to highlight the at a high level, kind of the different training defined institutions out there. You've got your local FBO, somebody that has a plane and has the appropriate certificate or rating, and they can train you. That's the most common. It's, everything's commonly referred to as a flight school. We at California Aeronautical University often get referred to as like, oh, you're a flight school. Well, the flight training within our program is less than 20% of what we do in terms of educating somebody about the overall aviation career. But a local flight school, all they're doing is working on your certificates and ratings. You're not getting much other supplemental information. Flight academies that are out there, they're generally driven by contract training. So they'll do a lot of training with different foreign entities and generally getting groups of students in from those foreign entities. They do have domestic programs, but it's not their core business. It's not what they're used to doing. But there are flight academy options out there as well. Military, always an option. A lot of people want to get into the military. It's getting much more competitive for the slots, and so the bachelor's degree generally is a must. They're looking for you to have your bachelor's degree to get in there and pursue all the different great training they have. And then a university setting, college setting, we're going to be able to round you out with all the other general education and depth of flight knowledge that, really these crews and stuff that you have to manage, you're a manager. When you're the captain of these things and the door closes, it's not just about flying the plane. You've got hundreds of people you're responsible for, and you've got to be able to manage through that. Part 141 or 61, again, if you're already not falling asleep, you can start seeing, I mean, just in my slides here, there's a lot to talk about, and I'm just going through trying to hit on the high level stuff. You'll hear this talked about a lot, and again, not all things are created equal here. Part 141, though, just in kind of summary, is something that's a curriculum that's approved by the FAA, and it's going to be more structured. There's some steps and some disciplines that have to be gone through for an institution to obtain the 141 designation. So that's something good to look for. It really can help to know that entity is taking a little bit more care towards what they're doing and how they're doing it, because they're being monitored by the FAA in all that activity. Bottom line, make sure you're comparing apples to apples. The thing we hear a lot when people come and inquire is like, oh, well, that's very expensive. I can get it over here for cheaper, or my local flight school. Well, yeah, but if there's flying you another 20 hours more on average than you're flying at a college or university, it's not really cheaper. It seems like it is, but it's not apples to apples. You need to total all that stuff in and need to give the whole package consideration. You know, are you including an iPad? No. Do you have headsets? No. You know, all these costs start to add up, and next thing you know, you're already down a path and committed, and you didn't really do your homework. So compare apples to apples. A little bit about our program, and then we'll get some question and answer. Leaves about 10 minutes here for these guys because they're really the ones we want to hear from. They've kind of gone through the stuff. But you know, we have a bachelor's degree in aeronautics, fixed, and also rotorcraft. We're wanting to get our students to become professional pilots, not just get their certificates and ratings. We can do that in 3 years. So we accelerate our program. They get it done in 3 years because they go year-round. So that's kind of unique. They're accumulating their flight hours along the way. We are a Part 141 institution. Because we're a college and university and we do a little bit more depth in the curriculum, the FAA has also given us another authority, and that is to issue the restricted ATP certificates, and that basically acknowledges to the airlines that whatever these minimums are, they're 1,500 hours. If they get a bachelor's degree through CAU, we only need them to have 1,000 hours. So that's a big time savings for them to get to the airlines. And then they'll earn all of these certificates and ratings in 2 to 3 years. You know, the private, instrument, commercial, CFI, II. Here I go talking all these acronyms. And basically they'll have everything they need through some twin time and their twin rating when they graduate. Am I covering it so far? Yeah. So far, so good? These guys are used to dealing with me. Ugh. CAU flight program benefits, structured, regulated. Basically, we're a small university that really caters to getting to know our students, getting them through, having all of the benefits that you'd get at a traditional college or university with the funding, financial aid, loans, grants. You're going to get your bachelor's degree. You're going to get your pilot certificate. If the three of us pulled out our pilot certificates right now, are you a pilot yet? We need to get you there, right? It's all going to look the same, right? We're going to have the same thing, and I didn't necessarily follow the same path they did. We talked about the 500-hour reduction. The flight time, they're going to get about 250 hours by the time they graduate. Then they'll build time instructing, mostly with us. We've got several pathway programs to airlines. Those are kind of been changing a little bit. I think, Abby, you've seen the market, you know, impacted through COVID. But SkyWest, Piedmont, GoJet, Air Wisconsin, Mesa, Horizon. Aaron's working on Envoy. We've got a great facility, 22 acres in Bakersfield, California. It's in the Central Valley in California, so we've got great flying conditions all year round. We're about an hour to two from everywhere that's, you know, kind of neat in the California area, from the coast to Los Angeles. We deal with airspace. What's that? It's less if you fly. That's true. Yeah, once you get your private. We also have a flight center in Ventura County, San Diego, and then we just opened up in Phoenix, and these allow our students that are local to those areas opportunities as well. We use 172 G1000 aircraft. We have a Baron 55 fleet that we use for our twin multi-training. It's heavy, real twin. We use glass. We do have some in our fleet for the round dial, so we get our students exposed to that. We have a fleet of about 35 aircraft, just around 350, just under 350 students after next week. Crazy, huh? Yeah. So we have scholarships also. That's a big thing. You always want to, there's tons of scholarships. All those organizations you mentioned, they offer scholarships as well. And you just need to put the effort out there and apply for the different scholarships, and these are ones that our university offers. So we want to leave the last 10 minutes here. They didn't know there was this picture of them up there, but I found a picture. I've had the opportunity to do a lot with these guys. They've had a big influence on the university, and they've made a big influence on a lot of people, not at the university, just in the aviation community. So we asked if they could come and kind of share some of their experiences and how they kind of pursued their pathway into this career. Mm-hmm. And like Abby said, they didn't come from families with aviation backgrounds. So, talk a little bit about that. Why aviation? What got you turned on to aviation?
Well, I think like any kid that looks to the sky and sees a plane and says, I want to do that. I didn't think I could do that. I didn't think, one, I could find the funding to do that. I mean, granted, the military helped me out. CAU helped me out with that. But I didn't think that I had the ability to become a pilot. I didn't think I was smart enough. I didn't think I could get through it. But I was in the medical field for about 10 years, most of that being in the military. And then when I got out, a mentor that I had in the military had since gone on to be a flight instructor and an airline pilot. And he was like, if you want to do this, I'll get you to it. And so he kind of led me, took my hand and led me through becoming a pilot. So I did my private pilot when I was out in Hawaii, where I got out of the military, and that was kind of the bug that set. And after my very first lesson, I was like, nope, I'm going to do this. We're changing careers. Here's my midlife crisis. We're doing it. Mm-hmm. So I did my private pilot in Hawaii, and then I started my research to find a school, because really there's not a lot of information out there. I stumbled across CAU, and after talking to the admissions staff and reviewing all the literature I could get on, I was like, this is where I'm going to go. And so I went to CAU, and I enjoyed the fact that it was so fast, so accelerated, because I'm not your high school graduate.
That is for sure.
It's going right into the airline. Thanks, Matt. It's going right into the airline. So I'm kind of already behind that seniority curve, and I needed to make it up. So I was like, this place can get me there quick. And it was, from the time I started to the time I was sitting on the flight deck in a regional jet at the airlines, was 3 years. Wow. Almost to the day.
Yeah. So. How about you, Elsa?
Going through high school, I tried to find out what I was passionate about, and I couldn't really find anything. And I looked at several different universities, and none of the programs they offered really spoke to me. So I actually took about a year and a half off to just work and kind of enjoy life a little bit. And one night, I really decided, you know what, I need to actually start beginning my life and finding myself a career. So I sat down at the beach, and I looked up and I saw a plane, and I was like, you know what, I absolutely love to travel. I think I would be very passionate about it. I'm going to do that. I'm going to be a pilot. And that's what I said to myself. I came home to my mom. I said the exact same thing. And she said, okay, let's do it. So I started researching online what I needed to do and started going to a community college, because at that time, what I had researched said, you just need any random degree. So I absolutely hated going to community college. It was not something I enjoyed. And I sat back at the computer, researched it, and like Aaron had said, Google randomly found CAU. I applied, and I loved everything about it, loved that it was an accelerated program, because again, like Aaron, I wasn't a fresh graduate from high school, and I really wanted to find my way. So for me, it was sort of fell into my lap, and the first flight that I ever took and just touring CAU, I got the bug. I got so excited about aviation, and after that, it was just getting your certificates and getting to the flight deck. But one thing I do want to mention with flight training, and especially in a university environment, if you don't put in the effort, you're not going to get anything out of it. Just like anything, you have to find that you're passionate about it, and even through flight training, there can be a lull period where you don't feel like you're kind of moving forward, but you are. And you have to give the effort to put into it and continue to work. Because as Aaron and I can attest, there are times where you can struggle through it, because not only are you doing your degree, but you're also doing flight training. So you really have to get through both of them and kind of motivate yourself. And that's where your instructors and your teachers are there to help you.
That's great. Now, you guys work for a regional airline with the aspirations to move forward. I mean, we heard from Abby in terms of the job opportunities and stuff that are out there. Why the airline route? There's a lot of different other routes, and maybe you can speak to some of the things you looked at, 135 and other career opportunities that are out there.
So I, like most students that went to CAU, I started out as the flight instructor. Kind of caveat to that, the day that I got my commercial certificate, because of networking, I had a phone call and they're like, we're looking for a pilot. And so I started flying for the state of California, doing Air Resources Board in the morning while earning my flight instructor and going to school. Then I became a flight instructor, got employed with CAU, so I was going to school, still earning the rest of my certificates and doing that. But then I had, through CAU, the wonderful network to start flying in a King Air, flying corporate. And it was at that point that I was like, okay, I don't know if the airline's the dream anymore, because it was an amazing company. I was experiencing this life that I didn't know existed before I got into this. So the day that I had that conversation with the chief pilot and assistant chief pilot of that company, I was like, this is really hard. And they're like, you've always wanted to go to the airline? That was your dream? Go to the airline. This job will be here if you want it. I love the airline. That's what my goal was. I always wanted to be that airline pilot, you know, watching Pan Am pilots and TSA pilots and whatnot. So that was kind of where I wanted to be. So that's the direction that I took. But I know people, you know, flying pipeline patrol or doing the big oil rigs, flying helicopters, doing corporate. And we have Moises, who is a flight instructor with us, still doing the corporate stuff with that King Air company. There's all kinds of things. It's just, this is what attracted me. I love the lifestyle of the airline pilot, being able to visit all kinds of places like I do on the company's dime all the time. But then on my off time, I get all the privileges of the airline pilot, where I get to travel wherever I want to go.
I want to change the question up just a little bit for you, because one of the things that we're proud of at CAU, and also just, I think when you talk to those industries, getting females and getting minorities and all these different diverse people involved in aviation is been a challenge, right, for this male-driven industry. So being a female in aviation, right, and kind of navigating your path through and you know, applying out there, what's that been like, and what would you say to, you know, a young female or somebody with a diverse background? How would you
I've always received positive feedback, being a female and a minority slightly. In the aviation community, everyone's always been super welcoming and really happy that I am a female. So I've gotten a lot of opportunities because of it, but also because of the flight training and everything else that I've had. I have the certificates to back up what I do. So as a female, one thing I found extremely helpful was to be part of the 99s and Women's in Aviation, because now you have a support group of females who want you to succeed. And just talking to these other females and who have done other jobs in their career, because being an airline pilot wasn't necessarily available to them when they were going through flight training, but they are so proud of you and they want to help you and want to push you forward in any way possible. So having that support group was the biggest thing, but just being a pilot was the best thing that I could have done. It's not necessarily female, male, it's just you get to be a pilot. So regardless of who you are, if that's your dream, that's your end goal, go for it.
I think something to add too that's so great being a part of those associations, you don't have to be a pilot to be a member of Women in Aviation. You can just be an enthusiast and start to build that network and talk to those women or any group that you're in. There's so many associations in aviation, it's unreal. Attach, join, network, that's the best thing you could do no matter what path you want to take.
Yeah, that's the common theme I think that you guys would support. I know you're both very actively engaged in things when you were at the university and then post in what you guys are pursuing. But that's the biggest advice I give to you guys that are in the audience here or anyone. Get involved, right? Go to your local Civil Air Patrol or Commemorative Air Force. go to one of these events that's happening with one of these associations. Get involved. People will talk to you. They'll embrace you. They'll ask you questions too, because we want to get people involved in aviation. There's not enough. You saw those numbers that Abby put up on the board. Huge numbers. Cannot be filled unless we get people in here.
We've even met young pilots at airports that will wash, GA aircraft to exchange for flight time. And then you meet a friend for life. There's so many things that you can do, to get to your end goal.
Well, we're coming up on the end here with our time. I know you guys took some time out of your days to come here. So what advice, final words would you give to people that are, starting down this path and wanting to do a career in aviation? If you were brand new, the Google, all that stuff, how would you tell them to get started?
For me, I just want to reiterate, continue to push forward, because as you go through flight training, you'll continue to love it. And if it's something that you want to do, find where you're passionate. If you want to do flight training and be a CFI for the rest of your career, that is an amazing job to do as well. If you want to be in a flight deck and flying a Boeing 787, that's also an amazing career. Just continue to push through your flight training, because so many opportunities will be presented to you, and find what you want to do.
I think the number one thing that I tell anybody that asks that same question, I get asked that same question on a daily basis, and I just tell them, then do it. Stop talking and do it. Because the number one thing I hear is kind of where I was. I didn't think I could. No, you can. Anybody can do this. I can teach anybody to fly a plane. I can teach anybody the courses that Elza and I teach for CAU. I can teach anybody, but you've got to do it. So you got to pull the trigger and let's go to school.
Okay. Well, Abby, we've pulled off another little session here. Are there any questions that you have from the audience? I know we're kind of out of time, but looks like we have some time for some questions.
So after you get your commercial license, what are some career options you guys would recommend to build hours? Is that just for have to be a CFI, right?
Yeah. So CFI, you'll hear that a lot for two reasons. One, it is one of the fastest way to build time. You can do 8 hours a day with a student 7 days a week if you want. But two, it really hones in your knowledge, because the CFI is the subject matter expert of the air regulations and the aeronautical knowledge and everything that goes into it. So a lot of the airlines, they'll tell you, we love to hire CFIs because they're fresh with the information. But being a commercial pilot, I can sit here and give you a list. Some of those will be fly skydivers. I flew for Air Resources Board, where I took ozone readings and whatnot every single morning on a prescribed path. There's banner towing. We have it in Chicago, where Elza and I live. We see banners towing all the time during the summer. But there's all kinds of things you can do with just the commercial certificate to build that time. Keep in mind you're limited on size of aircraft, how many passengers, etc. But the opportunities are out there, especially if you get your multi, which like CAU, we do our multi rating as well on that commercial certificate. The options are endless, and there's a lot of little things out there, a lot of Facebook groups you can get on JSfirm that you can find those things to build your time with. So yeah, CFI is not the only way to go. If you're not looking to instruct, you don't want to teach, then go find something that you are passionate about. Maybe you end up like, I think Moises, he was set on going to the airline. He started doing this King Air gig that I did at the corporate, and I think that's where he's probably going to stay now, because it's an amazing company, amazing opportunity, but he realized this is the life that I want. And so while you're building your time, you may actually divert your career and go a different direction as well. Great question.
Any other questions? Yeah.
Say that again?
Is there the degrees? So they're looking for a bachelor's degree. There's different pathways out there where you can get a bachelor's degree and then get all your flight training certificates and ratings. At the university, it's a bachelor's degree in aeronautics. We have an associate's degree as well for somebody that's just looking for maybe a 2-year option. But it's generally found out there amongst colleges and universities as a bachelor's degree in aeronautics.
So one thing I do want to say on that, having a bachelor's degree in aeronautics prepares you so much more for the airlines. So when I had been researching, it said you can get any degree, and that's completely fine if you wanted to get a degree in underground basket weaving. But The degree that for aeronautics, when you go to your flight training in-doc class with whichever airline you choose, you will already have an understanding of CRM. You will already have an understanding of advanced aircraft systems. And it just kind of puts you ahead of the curve because now you're just learning things specifically to your airline, specifically to the plane that you're going to be flying. And you're not struggling to learn new information. You're just kind of filling in the gaps that you don't necessarily know. But you already have that background and you're that much stronger in the school and in doc. You'll feel that much better about getting to the airline.